While I can't predict how old you are watching this video, let me try a bit of shared nostalgia. Do you remember the demo discs for the Sony PlayStation? Specifically, Demo 1, set under the ocean, where each menu option was a sea creature drifting to a pulsing techno track that sounded a little like this. Again, I don't know if maybe you're too young for it, and instead of maybe watching this footage and listening to the track under my voice for the first time and thinking, damn, what a vibe. And honestly, that's the point, because vibes are a powerful thing. Especially in the PlayStation era, where the multimedia revolution still felt wide open with possibility. It was the age of gaudy Winamp skins, websites powered by Flash, interfaces adorned with heavy bevels, glassy transparencies, and amorphous blobs. Software no longer had to be shackled by square windows and keyboard strokes. They could afford to break the rules, sometimes evoking real-world products, but more often envisioning a kind of aspirational device of the future. Sure, on Demo 1 you still navigated with simple button presses, but this menu wasn't built purely for function, but designed for atmosphere. And in this case it was a full-on undersea party, less about usability and more about creating a chilled, aquatic mood. A forerunner to the early millennium's obsession with sea life and beaches, seen in games like Sonic Adventure, Final Fantasy X and Kingdom Hearts. What I'm saying is, if he had to, this is how Sora would be sending his emails. And that same sense of mood carries through into one particular preview from Demo 1 that stuck with me for nearly 25 years. Not the first stage of Crash Bandicoot 3, nor Buster Groove, but a strange little puzzle platformer called Cooler World. On a console defined by characters like Lara Croft, Cloud Strife and Solid Snake, here you played as a beach ball. You could roll, you could bounce with a hollow rubber ping, and instead of realistic landscapes, you navigated narrow, gravity-defying structures inspired by the work of Oscar Reuterswärd. What made it striking was how deliberately digital it felt. The ball moved in precise steps and every jump was exact, leaning into the video part of the video game rather than chasing realism. The objectives were also pretty simple: collect a key, grab some fruit, find the exit, but the thing that stuck wasn't the mechanics, it was the atmosphere. The interface shimmered with glassy new millennium bevels, letting you peer into these abstract spaces uninterrupted. The pastel visuals looked like early Pixar test renders, all clean geometry and soft tones. The music conjured Egyptian pyramids, mystery, even a touch of the alien. It was like a real-time homage to classic Amiga workstation demos, where texture-mapped objects drifted through Dali-esque voids, only now anchored by a goal and a ticking timer. The effect was instantly evocative, signaling that the developers weren't chasing realism but constructing an alternate reality. And fun fact, some of the developers behind Cooler World later co-founded Teenage Engineering, the Swedish hardware company celebrated for its minimal and human-centric design. Thanks, Wikipedia. Of course I could emulate the full version of Cooler World today, but it would never recreate the feeling of that demo. Part of its magic came from its finiteness, like a trip to a dance club rather than putting a record on repeat. A vibe, as powerful as it is, often works because it's fleeting. Stretch it too far and what was once cool turns cold, even a little cheesy. My fondness for Cooler World is tied as much to the moment in time it belonged to as the game itself. It's the same quality you see in art movements like vaporwave, not a faithful recreation of the 1980s, but a longing for a heightened version of it, built from equally heightened sources like MTV and Miami Vice. Over time it's been pushed further still, pink neon grids, sunset gradients, marble busts, none of which were ever really reflective of the 1980s. But like vinyl crackle or VHS static repurposed as modern texture, vaporwave creates something new out of memories of something half imagined. And all of these disparate threads collide in Axis, a spiritual successor to Cooler World that drags its abstract puzzles into the Amiga-infused, vaporwave-saturated realm. Here you play as a sphere once again, this time ringed like Saturn, rolling across geometric structures, collecting pickups and searching for the exit. That tight grid-based movement returns, along with the impeccable vibes, now filtered through interfaces that look ripped straight out of Winamp. There's even a little music player in the corner, showing the composer of each track as you play. What makes Axis especially striking is how it frames itself as a game within a game, not in the sense of unlocking one by finishing another, but as a fictional artifact embedded inside a fictional world. You boot it up through a mock operating system styled like Windows 95, set against the backdrop of a bedroom that could have belonged to a teenage boy in 1991. Later, the interface itself floats above the game as overlapping windows, offering recognizable navigation and settings without breaking the alien aesthetic. Mistakes rewind with a burst of VHS scrubbing, while collectibles and level packs take the form of cassette tapes, a medium already fading in Cooler World's CD era, but resurrected here as a shorthand for the Amiga age. In some ways, Access feels like a pre-Cooler World prototype, a 3D puzzle platformer stripped to its barest bones, all simple shapes suspended in abstract voids where progression means literally rolling over data to make the game complete itself. But that simplicity allows for some clever twists on the formula. Gravity can be easily manipulated in the world of Agassiz, shifting intuitively depending on which face of a cube you're standing on, an elegant nod to the X, Y, and Z of its name. It's still grounded by that turn-based movement, almost like a block pushing game, while a ticking timer urges you to unravel each level as quickly as possible. It's not quite a marble game or Super Monkey Ball, even if the footage might suggest otherwise. Then again, Cooler World wasn't either. That's why I find it fascinating to see an indie project so indebted to such a singular, half-forgotten experience. Because of its visual direction and its embrace of very specific inspirations, Access doesn't feel like a cover band but a true spiritual successor. Like the art movements it draws from, it takes something old, even half-remembered, and uses it as body for something completely new. It's still early days for me with Access, and maybe I'll eventually hit a kind of wall I never did with the Cooler World demo, but for anyone looking for a game that uses a nostalgic hook to draw you into some genuinely interesting puzzle gameplay, it's an easy recommendation. And if you've never touched Cooler World, and the idea of wrangling emulators terrifies you, this is an emulation of a different kind. Not of software, but of pure vibes, carried forward into the 21st century.